Hi guys, this is Allie with Deep Stop Scuba. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have a couple of great guests with us today. It is Jamesy and Brando from the Great Dive Podcast, so I'm going to have them come on and introduce themselves. Hey Jamesy. Hey Brando. James, if you want to introduce yourself really quick.
No, I'm going to let Brando go first.
Oh, yeah?
That's just a joke because he's not there.
I was like, that's a good idea.
Oh, hi. I'm James from the Great Dive Podcast.
What happened? I thought I was in the waiting room. They called my name.
We thought we were going to be in the waiting room a little bit longer.
Son of a...
I know. I was up looking for a last minute thought of a book rolling through. But no, we have a fun little show that we do every week that we've been doing for about 5 years now. 281 weeks of your listening enjoyment of Brandon and I kind of talking about a different dive topic every week that we pick and kind of go through and read through and crack childish humor jokes about. Like any of your
It's really adolescent.
Sometimes they're grown up and educated and professional jokes, but a lot of times they're childish humor. But it's kind of the same exact humor you'd have if you were going out to grab a bite to eat with a bunch of people after a day of diving, and everybody's sitting around the table having some food and appetizers and cocktails and beers or whatever, just shooting the shit kind of a thing. But that's our show.
Cool. Brando, did you want to add anything? Introduce yourself?
Well, my name's Brandon. Everybody calls me Brando for the most part. James and I have been diving. I don't know what he's told you, but we've been diving together for a couple decades now. And we birthed the show out of the idea of sitting around a bar after we usually do after a dive, yapping about diving. And usually everyone around us was somewhat entertained. And we said we should take the show, we should go pro with it.
Big time.
Take it to the big time. Right. So a Hollywood producer approached us and we told him, get out of our face. We're going to do this ourselves.
We don't need the networks.
We don't need the networks. But
Awesome.
Yeah, in a nutshell, that's it. We just talked after the dives and always enjoyed it. So we thought, start a podcast. And I didn't think it would last 2 weeks, to be honest. I gave it 2 weeks. And here we are 5 years later.
Yeah.
Once a week. So
yeah, with nice steady growth every year, and
right.
Emails and messages and Facebook messages that keep coming back with, keep up the good work, guys, stuff that keeps us motivated. So
right, a lot of positive response to it.
From the people, we'd have quit a long time ago, but for some reason they like our humor, I think. And occasionally we say something intelligent.
We do have to sprinkle some information in there, some data, news.
Yeah, and I've heard only good things, so
awesome.
That's really cool. Also, one other thing, what are you guys drinking tonight? Anything?
Yes, go ahead, Brando.
I got a little figured somewhat diving related.
It's
nice.
Very much diving related. Jefferson's Ocean, that's a very good
right.
pick.
Where there's a myth that the only good diving is in Jefferson's Ocean, and that's a myth.
Well, it's the 8th sea. A lot of people don't realize. It's hidden. I'm a little more land-bound with my cocktail choice. I was up diving or trying to dive this past weekend up in northern Michigan, but we got blown out. So on the way home, we stopped into the store to pick up some beers, and I saw this, and I couldn't say no to it for a bunch of the family to try. It's called Chicken Cock, rye whiskey, Chicken Cock. How are you going to say no to some chicken cock? That's pretty good stuff.
Okay.
And I've just got Scapa whiskey from this collection, this lovely collection I have.
Very nice.
I noticed that. Yeah.
So
wow.
So as the name suggests, we are going to talk about dives and myths and superstitions in diving. So we have a couple different sort of categories here. One of them being outdated gear myths. They didn't necessarily used to be myths, but just a little bit outdated. So you guys, a ton of people have probably heard about the quarter turn back. So that's like you're turning your tank on, turn it all the way on, and then you give it a quarter turn back. I met someone who does this still, and I looked at her like she was a relic. I was like, no way. So is this something you guys have seen people still doing? Is this something that you guys have ever done or still do?
Oh yeah, I mean it's definitely the way I was taught, growing up.
Yeah.
I mean I learned, I remember learning in the early 2000s. This is a dumb idea for many reasons, and ceased doing it back then. So for me, it's been 20 years of a valve is either all the way open or all the way closed for a very simple fact of easy verification of what's going on, in the middle of a situation. But it's still taught, and the woman that you're talking about, is only a relic-y victim of what she was taught, really.
Yeah.
That's a tough one, because until, I mean, even 5 years ago, you would even still see it in, described in magazines and stuff still as a normal practice.
Yeah.
Well, it's a great example of primacy too, in the sense of that's the first thing you were taught. And even though data or information will be available to show you that it's not the best way to do something, people will still keep doing it, as you've already said. But I also see the reason why they taught it. I mean, people would crank that valve open and it's jammed open now and they can't do anything about it,
I mean, I've been working in a dive shop my whole life pretty much. And I mean, I can't tell you how many people I see, come in for air fills, and I'll turn their valve on, turn it on a second time, turn it a third time. And like at the end of that fourth turn, the gas starts leaving the cylinder. Like they just crank that valve so tight to get it closed that they just eat up the inside of that valve seat. And then, on the opposite end of opening it all the way up and not digging into it, shutting that valve back down, which is really where that quarter turn thing is. Again, it was a matter of saving the valve seat, which really isn't necessary. No, definitely not as necessary as just understanding the valve. Would be a much better 10-minute discussion rather than the quarter turn back, which was just a quick, easy way for an instructor for decades to not have to repair valves every couple of weeks.
Well, it also came, there was that miscommunication or the misunderstanding that a quarter turn back meant, like, if it took me 4 revolutions to get all the way open, a quarter turn meant a whole revolution back. Do you understand?
That was a miscommunication by a lot of people.
Misunderstanding, miscommunication. But you ended up having people that were jumping off the boat with their valve, really only a quarter turn on.
And that's one of the biggest, that's one of the biggest problems with it is you get a lot of new and inexperienced divers, or even experienced divers who are like you're just in a rush, or you're dealing with all the chitter chatter on a dive boat. You pressurize the regulator, and then you get sidetracked doing something else. And then when you go back to it later, you look at the gauge shows full. You turn the valve, it goes a quarter turn and stops, and you turn it, not realizing while you're in the moment that it's only a quarter turn open, not only a quarter turn closed. The mere fact of doing it creates a lot of confusion.
Yeah, we have a lot of people commenting also that that's how they learned when they started, and it's not any longer, but it was just a difference in gear. So definitely changed over time, but due to like differences in gear. So another one that we have is using your tank to dry your first stage of your regulator. What are you guys thinking about that?
There should be a scuba death penalty.
That's pretty harsh.
There's nothing more infuriating and frustrating to these aged ears of mine. Like, I've got the grays in there, you know, they're aged. They're getting old. To hear that excruciating shriek of air shooting out, to blow that dust cap. Oh, I know. Thank you.
It scares the crap out of Dana every time. No one wants it.
What the hell? Just dab it with a towel or a t-shirt or just a little puff of it. I mean, a tiny little of air from your lips is more than enough air pressure to rid the water off of that filter on your regulator.
Yeah. Also, less, I think, a myth or superstition, but something that also scares me is when I hear students and they're like pressing the purge button excessively to test their regulator instead of breathing off of it. It scares me because then it's usually like free flowing, or sometimes it's free flowing and I'm like, what's happening? What are they doing? And I look and they're just like trying to test things. Like,
right. Well, I think there's a lot of confusion that happens when somebody's first learning to dive. It's such a weird thing of the equipment assembly process.
I want to know who Facebook user is. It says, "Oh, please, not the end of the world. Come on."
I'll tell you exactly who Facebook user is. Facebook user blows gas pressure from the tank to clean off the dust.
That's so funny. So do you guys have any other like gear things?
No, but I do tell my students, or I did when I was teaching more open waters, is to go ahead and squirt that a few times before you put it in your mouth. Just to keep the bugs out. You know, you don't know what's gotten in there, because I have seen that.
I had
bees, whatever. Yeah.
Cricket. I had a guy who had a big old giant cricket. He got some rental gear and hooked everything up and stuck it in his mouth to breathe off of it and spit out this giant cricket.
Nice.
Lost his mind.
He's probably the one that Allie ran into, He's a little paranoid.
Yeah.
So yeah, a little purge isn't a bad idea, but I do know what you mean, Allie. It's excessively, purge it, and to me, I think that's a bit of just nerves and being uncomfortable. They're doing something that they're not really fully comfortable doing yet. The whole concept of going underwater is still slightly uncomfortable. So,
What a quick purge! Get that out, even.
Maybe, Jason. If you're diving beside me, you might be able to get a dead mouse out of there.
I just found one of those house centipedes walking around, and I was like, one of those in my regulator would.
Oh, could you imagine that?
Well, anything would not.
It'd be tennis for the rest of my life. I'd never put on scuba gear ever again. If one of those get into my mouth out of my regulator. Are you kidding me?
Mm-mm.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's definitely some fun right there.
I've got ones. Speaking of equipment, Allie,
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the greatest myths and misconceptions, I guess you could say, for most new divers, especially for non-divers, is the concept of those oxygen tanks that you're breathing on a dive.
Yes, yeah.
The news, if they're doing a report on scuba diving, you're on oxygen tanks.
Oh yeah, if you're looking at the local news story, and they describe the divers getting in the water, hooking up their oxygen tanks, that's still a big one. That and it just goes to show you that the scuba community is privy to a level of human physiology that most people just have no reason or need to even begin to understand.
Yeah. I asked my SUNY ESF students, how much oxygen is in air. And last year it was like 0 for 0 on our guesses.
No,
This year,
Really?
one kid guessed it right
Wow.
off the bat. I scolded them. I was like, "You're all science students," and this one kid goes, "Ah, I'm in pre-med," and I was like, "That's worse. That's so much worse."
I'm not science. I'm pre-med.
He's like, "I don't go to USF." He's like, but no, we had one student guess it right off the bat this year, and I was like, I could like hug you.
Now was the guess that was right off the bat? Was it literally though just a blind guess, or was it
I
kind of
don't think so.
an educated guess that they kind of knew the answer?
He sounded very sure it was a 21%. So
Okay, all right.
yeah. So I was pretty impressed. Which I don't know. That's something.
Did you immediately ask him what that partial pressure was, just to
No.
put him back in?
I would never.
I'm the teacher here.
It was the first day for them. Cut him a break.
There you go.
So that's what I've got for gear. I have another one that is like a little bit close to home.
Can I do another gear one?
Oh, absolutely.
I do have another gear one that
Yeah.
we're talking about myths.
James works on gear all day. He's probably got 100 of them.
Okay.
I mean, if we're here talking about myths and scuba, let's not forget one of the greatest myths that grew in the course of the 1990s with everybody watching Baywatch, with the thought that you could use a spare air stay down underwater for 30 minutes to rescue a team of bikini models or whatever David Hasselhoff was saving in that episode.
You mean that can't happen? Really?
No, you got to have two right now. You have two.
Dual, double up with the isolator manifold and
two spare airs. You need to pull it off, but one spare air is not going to get you there.
Oof. Oof. The myth spares are worth anything. So we had some people bring in, I don't know how big the bottles actually were, like cubic feet wise, like one. I think they were actually 4. Like this big, and they were like, these are our ponies, like this is our spare air, and we were like, why bother? You're gonna have 3 breaths and then run out of air again.
You can tell they've never even thought of the math at all.
Right. If you've got almost, they used to be 2.7, now they're 3 cubic feet of air, in the standard unit, and they sell it as the diver's reserve parachute, which again, this is a hot button topic that Brando and I hit numerous times over the 200 plus shows. But the thought of just buying equipment to replace the need for you to have to think on a dive and calculate and know what you're going through, what you're going to need if and when the shit does hit the fan, just trusting to bail out and shoot the surface and suck a couple breaths along the way is a very backward way of presenting the game of scuba to a new diver, coming into it.
Definitely. We also have another one here from Nicole. You don't always need a big ass snorkel attached to your face. It's not always a good judgment call.
Unless you're snorkeling, you don't need a big ass snorkel at all.
I would give Nicole a dive master card right now just for that statement. Sight in the water. Yes, very true. And in fact, in a day like today where the cave diving community and the deep diving community has had such an impact on even what a brand new open water diver sees for equipment. There's a lot of equipment configurations where having a snorkel attached to your head is actually completely incompatible with the equipment configuration that you're wearing. And to have that thing beating you upside the head for the Sorry, Nicole.
Nice, James. There's another 1-star for us.
Yeah, that was boy. Well, I just stuck my fin in my mouth there, didn't I?
Oof.
It is adorable. Yeah.
Adorable,
But
yeah.
my point is, like to have something, permanently attached to your head that you're using for 10% of the dive.
10%.
Maybe if you're on the snorkel and the conditions presented,
Hmm.
rather than just teaching. If you're in an environment where you need a snorkel, you can pull it out of a pocket and attach it quickly, rather than have that thing beating you upside the head like instructor trainer Nicole so perfectly told us. Makes no sense.
Thanks, Nicole. You see
Yeah,
that?
that was a good one.
Nicole, I'm going to send you some "Don't touch my fucking shit" stickers. If you want, you can send me your address. I'll send you some stickers.
I'll take some stickers.
I'll send you some too.
Thank you. So that's a good one. Do you guys have more gear?
No, I don't know that I got more gear right now.
Okay.
You got any from
Something off
the
your
audience?
head.
What was that?
I said any more from the audience that they've mentioned?
Not really. That was it. We got a larger explanation of the mouse in the regulator, but
Oh, okay.
but other than that, no gear myths. So I've got another one. It's come up a couple times recently. So let me know if you guys have heard of this. The training agency you start with is the one that you have to continue with, or else you have to start over from open water.
I've never heard that, but
I've never heard it mentioned like that, but I would say that it is the way 90% of the industry is conducted. I would say that most students, regardless of their certification level, have gotten it from one agency, if not one shop that teaches from that agency. In many cases, probably only one instructor's perspective of presenting the shop's interpretation of one agency's philosophy. Yeah, I would say that occurs a lot.
Yeah. Brandon, you said you haven't seen it?
I haven't seen that, verbatim, but I do know, just like James says, that's usually the case, is people stick with that one shop or that one agency. And I actually go the other way and tell students, vary your experience, go out and get different teachers or different agencies. And if you want some guidance, happy to do that. But I would say it's better to have that all around instruction and see what other agencies have to offer, kind of thing. So I do tell my students that, or I used to anyway, quite a bit.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, I understand it as an instructor and as a shop, and coming from a guy who's been working in a shop his whole life, it's, you want to keep everybody homegrown, but in the reality of it, it's hard to really become your own in scuba and as an art form. If all you have is one presentation that you've been shown, because I think I'm one of the greatest goddamn instructors in the world. But the fact of the matter is, if all you've ever learned from is me, you're not really having the ability to become a diver yourself. You're just, copying James Mott's, line of scuba. You're not really making it your own, right? Until you can see somebody who may be greater or maybe worse, but at least when you start to see that, you can start to see these different perspectives and make your own out of it, and take the good pieces. And when you can start to ignore the bad and take the good, in my opinion, that's where you're really starting to feel at home in your education, your training, because you're making scuba your own, not just carbon copying what someone's presenting.
Yeah, definitely. So I've only ever done classes with SDI, but I've had a bunch of different instructors, and I'm kind of in a nice position where I can look at the same classes with different instructors, and I actually love doing that because you can see how different people teach, how like what different instructors emphasize in certain classes. So I think that's really interesting. So even if you're in the same agency, like getting just a different perspective from different instructors is really great for people, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, everybody's. I mean, even between Brandon and I mean, as much as we've got a lot of the similar background and so much diving experience and history together, the two of us would teach the exact same topic with the exact same bullet points, the exact same curriculum. We teach it in two different ways, just because two different people and two different perspectives and two different sources of understanding. So, I mean, if you're really looking to, get good at this, game of scuba that we all loved, to play, growing that source of information is only going to make you a better diver.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
So the next one, very straightforward. And I know you guys told me you were recently discussing sort of sharks.
We were.
Shark Week. Yes, Shark Week.
Shark Week, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Got my shark earrings on, so
nice.
I love sharks. They're great guys and ladies.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people have a lot of shit to say about sharks.
They certainly do. And I would say that's probably the biggest misconception in scuba is the shark myth that all sharks are, Bruce from Jaws.
Yeah, that's it's perpetuated in the media. It's perpetuated with everything.
Yeah, that's what
are we all
you can blow them up with scuba tanks.
Well, if your name is Brody, we can blow up scuba tanks.
I've heard that sharks can be picked up into a tornado, and that's very factual.
Well, they've actually had a documentary. I think you've heard of it. It's a movie.
Yes. It had the guy from 90210.
Yes, it was great. Lending credibility was I don't even remember his name, but he was in it. Yeah.
Right. Well,
there you go. So that myth's been proven.
Well, there's been a ton of shark movies. You got to keep in mind, Now, Allie, have you seen Jaws, the original Jaws?
I saw Jaws a long time ago.
Okay.
How old were you?
A long time. I remember parts of it.
Okay.
Little kid. Yeah.
We know what you're doing this weekend.
Yeah. No, I have a list of things to watch and listen to for this week. So
it is one of the greatest movies ever, and it is the movie that birthed the great American summer blockbuster film, because of like how many people that like brought to the theaters, and then it also like birthed so many shark monster movies. It became the new easy target monster, which I think is what we're dealing with today. And we made a little bit of a comment earlier about like some of our shark episodes and the Ocean Ramsey controversy that was going on a little while ago, and like all the work that needs to be done in this world right now to get people to stop just the mass destruction of sharks just out of fear and ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
When it's all, even like when you look at the number of different species of sharks, even having the chance of being attacked by one is a tiny fraction.
Yeah, the numbers don't back up the fright, but it's a media thing, and it's an easy monster.
Well, yeah, because it's a very graphic scene when it happens, so it's easily sensationalized in the media. Which is what I think. I've got a huge respect for what Ocean Ramsey is doing with being able to get in the water, understand their behavior, see their behavior, and find a peace in that three-dimensional water column with them, and to know that she's okay and safe. That's impressive that somebody's willing to take that time with what is considered a genuine monster. And
is
to learn.
She safe though, James? Is she really safe? she's okay right there. But is she safe? I mean, swimming in the water with a great white is still swimming in the water with a great white.
Well, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. I mean, I've been in the water with them myself, but it was caged, and they told us very specific reasons why we were caged and not free swimming. So, and that was 15, 20 years ago, I think now. So to see what she's learned in this last decade plus, I mean, I would love to sit down and learn what she's learned and gain from some of the experience that she's had in the last decade or so.
Yeah.
Plus, I think most divers that have dived with sharks come away with the entire opposite, feeling. Like, they're just down there doing their thing. They don't want anything really to do with you for the most part, and you don't bug them, and they don't bug you.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly the case. I mean, for the most part, it's one of the greatest myths of whenever you see a shark, you're going to get eaten alive. But the reality is, if you are really that afraid, all you have to do is close your eyes and count to 3. And by the time you open your eyes, the shark's probably long gone.
Yeah, the sharks that I dove with, they were small anyways, but they were pretty skittish. They saw us and they just took off. Like, I don't want to be around that.
Right. You're noisy. You got bubbles shooting everywhere. You got hoses dangling all over the place. You're flapping around those silly split fins. No elegant sea creature's going to want to be cruising around by you looking like that. I don't mean you particularly. I mean you as a society.
A generic diver.
Yeah. So have you guys had good, bad experiences with sharks? Anything extra?
I had good ones,
Yeah, only good. I've never had a bad shark experience.
I have 10 fingers and 10 toes and all of my legs and hands, so never had a bad experience.
And even I would say the majority of the scuba stories I've heard have all been good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw a video, it's not my video, it's Jason's video, of a nurse shark coming up to him. And I don't even know if she was upset or not. I don't think she looked happy, but the most she did, she gave him the biggest, cutest boop ever. She just swam up to him and was right into the camera.
So you can't just do it, you gotta say the boop part too.
The boop. And then she went away. But I think he befriended her for his whole trip, so she was a cutie. So not my story, but someone else's nice shark story.
Yeah. I mean, I've swam with, hundreds of hammerheads in the Galapagos and in Cocos. I've swam with, and that's just so, mind blowing that you don't even have the time to think about. I'm in the water with a shark. You're just so overwhelmed. But when you see one come out of nowhere, it'll give you a little bit of a, it'll catch you a little bit of just catch your attention. But I mean, if I was walking down the street or taking a jog and a dog ran out of a yard, I'd have the same spark of a adrenaline spike, looking and curious of an animal in my presence.
Yeah.
I had one really scary experience with sharks. I led a trip to Southern Cal, and I took a group of lawyers, and it was the scariest shark experience I ever had. I barely got away with my life.
I was going to say, that sounds a little sketchy.
All the lawyers are going to be back, and I'll see her shortly. So
Jason's had more divers try to kill him than sharks.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Facts.
You know that.
True facts.
Yeah.
True facts, Jason.
I've had more divers than cars, sharks, bullets, everything, all added together.
Yeah, that's one of the things they don't tell you much in the IDC.
Cows kill 100 people a year.
They do, yeah.
Who's damn cows? But nobody's afraid of cows.
No, I just saw some cows.
Wait. How are
yesterday.
How are these people getting their milk? Is what I want to know.
We need James a movie idea.
How are these 100 people getting their milk? That's the more important.
What about a movie idea? We'll call it Udders. Who's with me?
I love it.
I know. That was awesome. Yeah, I know a couple people. They go to North Carolina every year-ish. And
thanks, Dana, for being the only one. Appreciate that. Thanks, bud.
Oh, this is good. This is a good. Wait, I'm sorry. This is a good improvement for the movie title.
It's an utter disaster.
These comments are utterly ridiculous.
But they were diving with a bunch of, I think, sand tiger sharks, and they said at one point there were so many of them that they had to wait for a gap in them to drop the anchor, and they're totally fine. They have videos of them just hanging out, doing their own thing. So,
well, I remember being we were in I believe it was Cocos. We were on the back of the boat. We were going to do a night dive at Manuelita, the very popular dive site where they get all these white tip sharks that come in, and the white tips basically hunt the bottom. And I mean, there's schooling white. I mean, they're in a bunch of just pods of 20, 30, 40 of them, just all swimming around, covering lifting rocks, looking for these fish that these I think they're amberjacks are hunting in the shallows, and then they shoot down and hide in the rocks, and then the white tips go on and throwing these rocks around. But there were sharks everywhere. We were getting off of the boat, so at first you're looking how do you even get in the water? There's shark, 50 sharks just circling up at the top. I remember saying what would happen if I jumped in right now on top of all these 50 sharks? And the dive master says, "Oh, they'd all swim away." But then they'd come right back, he says.
That's awesome.
That was a great line.
Yeah, so sharks, pretty cool. Let's see. So I have a few more outlandish ones. Some of these I actually looked up because I had never heard of them before, ever. So, okay, everyone wants to talk about bananas. I know everybody wants to talk about the bananas. It's supposedly bad luck to bring bananas on a boat.
You won't catch any fish.
You won't catch any fish.
If you have bananas on a boat. If you bring a banana on a boat, a fishing boat, and they don't catch any fish,
you'll get blamed.
You're going to get your ass kicked.
I thought you'd see.
They find out you got a banana and the fishing's bad that day, look out. I don't know where that myth came up from.
I thought you sang. We looked it up.
Really, I mean, I don't never really heard it as being a big thing on a dive boat, but on a fishing boat,
I've heard it on the dive boats. There were captains that are you're not getting on here. It's crazy.
I've got cramps.
Oh, see, here's proof. This is proof. This is not a myth.
See, Nicole. Thank you, Nicole.
It's a real thing. I've also heard I
want to hear. Will you send Nicole a podcast email, because I need to hear these 4 absolutely disastrous stories.
Yeah, that should be a follow-up episode where we talk about we have Nicole on, talk about all of our banana disasters.
Info at the Great Dive Podcast. I got to hear these banana stories.
Yeah,
fascinating.
So you're not going to catch any fish. You might sink the boat with your bananas. So bananas float. So whenever a boat would sink, they would leave bananas in their wake, and so that is obviously
that must be the cause.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah,
that's a pretty good theory,
right?
Did you research that theory, or is that your own thinking that came up with that, Allie?
No, I researched I researched that. Brandon said that he was having some issues for the past 3 days with internet.
Yeah. We had crazy storms rolled through here Monday. Brando's been out of power for days, and he just got power back about 4 hours ago, I think. So
maybe he'll come back, but
yeah.
maybe not.
Don't give up on the old lad yet.
No, so I looked this up. There's also like a more realistic reason for not wanting bananas on a boat. Here he is. We thought we lost you forever.
All right.
Brando was eating a banana.
I was going to say bananas.
You noticed that?
Don't have bananas on the boat, and don't bring them onto a podcast, a streaming podcast.
Yeah.
Facts.
I'm glad you made it back.
Me too. You guys just disappeared. Anyway, technology, old people, don't ask.
It's okay. The other reason why bananas are bad, well, they're not inherently evil, I guess, probably, but on boats, they used to have, obviously, a storage area for food on big ships, and bananas get ripe really fast, but when they do, they let off a gas that makes all of the other food ripen really fast, so it would make all of their food storages go bad. And also, it releases ethylene gas, which in large quantities can be flammable. So
interesting.
So there's something behind it.
Now I know why Marty McFly and Doc were putting banana peels into the DeLorean and the original Back to the Future.
Yeah,
create.
That makes sense.
That makes perfect sense.
They are indeed inherently evil.
That, and people have a tendency to just, throw a banana peel, and that could be really bad on a dive boat or any boat for that matter, especially if you have a peg leg. Because I'm assuming this myth came about in the pirate days. That's why
it must have.
So are we voting like that myth is a real deal? That's a real thing? We're going to believe that one?
I think that there needs to be like a formal study done.
Okay, there you go. Let's get some money.
Dana, we've got like 4 charters coming up.
We need to form a committee.
Depends on if I have bananas or not. We're not going to let you know. And if it goes well, then maybe I didn't bring the bananas. But so that'll be our study. That'll be in our follow-up episode of bananas.
Like it.
Yeah. So some other weird ones. Don't whistle on the boat. There's no whistling allowed. It's apparently bad.
I think they just made that up. For bad whistlers. I mean, that's what I would do. I'd be like, oh, you can't whistle. You don't want to whistle.
Right. I mean, are you talking about like the...
Quint was whistling, wasn't it?
Or are you trying to talk about the... I can't do that one, though.
I feel like whistle while you work type of thing. Like people are like cleaning the boat.
7 Dwarfs.
Cooking, whistling. Yeah. Have you guys heard that one?
I haven't heard.
But I agree with it.
Oh, you do?
I do, yeah.
Because you're a whistlist. It's
I'm a whistlist. I condemn all whistlers. I don't want anybody whistling over me, but yeah.
Apparently bad in Russia, also.
Nostrovia.
Well, then it's got to be true.
I guess so. Apparently, you're gonna bring. You're challenging the wind first of all if you're whistling. So.
The wind can whistle louder than any man on a boat.
So you are going to potentially bring bad weather. I guess if you're stuck in an area with no wind, then it's okay. But it's a very serious thing.
Okay, so how about this, Allie? Like we had this discussion, just a couple weeks ago. Red sky at night, red sky in morning, sailors take warning.
Yeah.
Is that kind of like Is that kind of like the whistle thing?
I think so. Or it's more of like an omen. Like, not so much. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. We need Dana. Is that a real thing?
I mean, you see like a red sky in the morning. Generally, in the olden days, they would say that means look out. Nature is tricking you into going out onto the sea, when really she's going to rear her ugly head and sink the boat. But often that just means it's going to be a really pretty day out.
Have you guys noticed that there's a trend? Like, have you paid attention to this in your lives?
Yeah, I think that's why I have Wind Finder on my phone. I go to it in red sky in morning. Wind Finder says we're good.
Okay. Dana stands by this myth.
Well, see,
Or the saying.
I would agree with Dana, because I had my grandfather was the first one that told me, like, when we would go fishing when I was a young lad.
No whistling.
Water. And, he lived by the red sky at night, like we were
the red
at night before. He was like, sailors delight. We're gonna have a good day on the water tomorrow. And I'm getting up early, and then we'd wake up in the morning. We'd be driving, and it'd be red sky in the morning. I'm like, Gramps, you said last night we had nothing to worry about. And you know what his answer ultimately was? We're going fishing, damn it. What's your life taking at?
Why not? So that's a good one. I didn't even think about that one, but I've heard that before also. This one's a little morbid. No flowers on the boat. Because it's associated with like death and funerals.
Well, sure, yeah. Don't send me no flowers. I'm not dead yet. I've heard that many a times.
Oh, that's not what I wanted. Yeah, I've never heard this, but apparently it used to be a big thing back in the day. No flowers.
Okay, why are you looking at me?
And it probably made all the sailors think of their ladies back home back in the day, I would bet. So they just didn't want the flowers.
Well, there's flowers at funerals, and
yeah,
I don't know. That's the only thing I can equate it with, but I had never heard that either.
Yeah. Also, flowers attracting ladies. I did read, but I wasn't gonna list it. Like, ladies are bad luck on a boat too, apparently. So you definitely don't want flowers then.
Well, yeah. That's why we haven't invited you to dive with us yet.
Yeah, it makes sense.
We just want to live.
That's okay. I'll surprise you one day with bananas and my lady presents.
Show up with
just to ruin the day. Whistling with like a bunch of bananas.
Classic.
Oh, see, now that's a boat I would love to get on. Like,
I was gonna say,
all of us we break every one of these rules.
Yeah. Really like that. I'll wear a flower wreath, walk on with like bunches of bananas, whistling.
I
like it.
And we have to go on a Thursday or Friday. So apparently, and this wasn't one I saw that was across the board, but it was one that was mentioned. Apparently it used to be bad luck to sail on Fridays because a number of horrible biblical events happened on a Friday, apparently. But also maybe don't go on Thursdays because of Thor. And apparently Thursday is his day. He's the god of thunder and storms.
It is Thor's day, yes.
Thursday, yeah.
Yes, that's where they got.
Or Monday, because the moon could be at bad time.
Or Sunday, you want to get sunburned.
Not Sunday. But don't
Saturday.
Don't at all.
Saturn's up there, like
don't do it.
Looking at us.
Right.
Well, really, what's the only good day to go?
Let's not even get these zodiacs involved.
No, it's a bad idea.
I heard all Pisces, contrary to what you might believe, are horrible divers.
If you have a Pisces in the boat, it's probably going to be a safe day in the water. That's not only a myth; it's a fact.
It's a fact.
Yeah. So, no Fridays, no Thursdays. There's a lot of do's and don'ts here. So what last one for bad luck that I have, and then we'll see if we have any for good luck that you guys have found. Oops. Having a boat that is unnamed is unlucky.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, I've heard that too. It's you got to name a boat, and I've also heard renaming a boat is bad luck. And ironically, many of the Great Lakes shipwrecks have got a series of 3 or 4 names to them as they go along.
It's like the Edmund Fitzgerald. Is that one renamed a bunch?
I don't believe so.
Oh no, that was
some of the old ones. We're talking like the 1800s.
Old. Okay.
Would keep getting sold and renamed.
I'm a Pisces too, Nicole. Peace to the Pisces.
So she says,
Brandon was saying that.
Of rituals. I read about this too, like 20 minutes before the show, probably. And it was like very, very in depth. I'm surprised you didn't have to like sacrifice your firstborn with how many steps there were involved. There was lighting things on fire for renaming a boat and all that good stuff. So you can rename a boat. You have to do it the right way.
Yeah, you need a lot of sage. You got to burn a lot of sage. You got to rename a boat.
There are human sacrifice involved.
You got to cleanse those spirits.
So that one was interesting.
A scuba instructor must be sacrificed.
No. That's why you never say you're an instructor when you go on a dive boat.
Well, there's is that a myth or is that a good practice?
I used to do a dive with customers. We would go out on the winter solstice for a dive, and I would do a ritual. We would sacrifice a wetsuit. We'd take one of the old rental wetsuits, and everybody would have to stab the wetsuit with a dive to kill off.
You didn't burn it with an underwater torch.
No, it's rubber. That would be bad for the ozone. You just stabbed it.
That's amazing. So wait, is that a myth or is that good practice? Not saying that you're an instructor when you are like on a boat for fun.
Oh, that's probably a really good practice to not say. I mean, I would just, because number one, you're going to knock your tank over, or somebody's going to knock you over, and then you go beating on your chest, telling everybody how awesome an instructor you are. You're better off just showing up on the boat, being a normal human being, and going diving as a customer that you really are, rather than going on and bragging to everybody about being an instructor. Just show up and go diving and have fun like everybody else.
The other side of that, though, James, is you say it so they won't touch your shit. Like,
oh, they're going to touch it anyway.
You got a point. There you go.
That's hilarious. What do you guys? Okay, worse to toot your own horn about being an instructor on a dive boat or being advanced?
Well, the problem with saying that you're an instructor on a boat is, number one, is you're opening yourself up to liability. Number two, your ass is probably going to get put to work somehow.
Yeah, we're going to buddy you up.
That's the real reason.
Clowns over here.
Yeah.
You're like, no.
I mean, a lot of people get on the boat and they say they're the instructor because they're hoping that the boat's just going to give them a free trip. But that boat captain and
that happens all the time, James.
They need a fucking badly, if not worse, than a struggling scuba instructor. So they're not going to give your ass a free trip.
No.
So just show up. I mean, if you're paying to go diving, just pay up and enjoy yourself and go diving, and don't worry about the stress or the burden of making that a big deal.
Fair.
Unless you're looking to teach a class.
Yeah.
Who wants that?
Yeah.
Well, Allie, if I can throw one out there that I was thinking of. Earlier was on the topic of instructors and education. I would say that there's a two-sided coin of a myth in scuba. And
Okay.
number one, one side of that coin is that scuba diving's easy, that anyone can do it, and that everyone should do it, I think is a very big myth. But I'm also a realist in so much as I also know that there's also a myth that scuba diving is difficult, that not everybody can do it. There's a fun little balance in there that is always a point of good discussion.
Yeah, Brandon, what do you think about it?
Oh, absolutely, James. I mean, we talk about this a lot. The idea, like, the marketing people want to market it so scuba diving goes to everybody, and everybody feels they can go get a card, and the class is so easy and simple, and you really don't have to put any work into it. As a matter of fact, they keep reducing the time, which, I mean, logically, all you're doing is reducing the amount you're learning, isn't it? I mean, you can't just keep cutting back the time on the class and keep a quality class. But yeah, the whole idea that it's easy, simple, or any of those absolutes, James, you know how I feel about absolutes. I never use absolutes.
I know you never use absolute.
But you can't say like it's so easy or it's so difficult. It's different for every person, and I don't believe everybody should be doing it either. But marketing people do.
Well, I believe that if you've got a passion for it and you're willing to put in the time and the work, yeah, like of course, like there you go, like Nicole said, yeah, exactly. If you're willing to put in the work, anyone can scuba, but that goes with understanding that it takes work to do. It takes to learn.
Continual practice. I mean, the idea that going once or twice a year is going to produce a quality diver is just false, blatantly false. And a diver who's comfortable all the time.
Yeah, like you're not going to be confident in the water, and you're not going to be a competent diver if you do one trip every year or two. It's regardless of how many years you're diving, you're going to go through that cycle every trip of
relearning,
being uncomfortable for the first couple of days, and then okay for a couple of days, and then being pretty okay with yourself on the last day of the trip, and then it cycles all over again. But in a world where everyone's taught to basically hold hands with and follow the dive master, that's perfectly acceptable behavior on the routine. It's just when people get outside of that world within which they've been taught is where the problems occur. And unfortunately in scuba, when the problems pop up really, really quick.
Yeah. And I definitely think as instructors, it can be easy to remember that it wasn't necessarily easy for you. Like,
right.
I had problems with math skills, and I think that like communicating that to your students is really helpful to be like, you're not the only one who's struggling, and it doesn't mean that you can't do it. And just remembering that, but also remembering not to psych people up and being like, this is really hard and really scary, and only a few people pass.
Yeah.
So it's definitely like a fine line between like not being like, this is so hard that you like are deterring people, but also being like, it's not like you don't have to think about it. So yeah, I think it's definitely a fine line.
No, I agree with you. I mean, there's a time and a place for increasing the intensity of training. But at the beginning, like you can't be making it so hard for somebody to come in, or we would never have any bit of an industry whatsoever. No, that's not what I'm saying whatsoever. But
yeah,
there does come a point when somebody wants to go beyond the handheld dive master led tour dives, where they need to learn to take ownership themselves for being in the water, and they need somebody that can show them that they can deal with the shit hitting the fan underwater, stay calm, and get themselves and everybody they're in the water with home. So at some point you've got to be ready to go that way. Otherwise, if you just want to do little 30-foot tour dive, reef dives, that's perfectly fine. But even still there, I mean, you can look at all the accident analysis from all the agencies, and you can read all the "this accident happened to me" stories on the online magazines and paper magazines. Stuff happens constantly, and it happens out of the blue. So if you've never, if everything's been so sugar coated that buying the best computer and the best regulator and the best fins in the world will keep you safe, you're in for a very disappointing day coming up somewhere.
No, I definitely agree. No, that's definitely a good one to bring up. I like that. That is Nicole said, leads us back to the scuba diver versus open water scuba diver conversation again. It could definitely warrant its own whole topic, I feel like.
Yeah. I think we had this a while ago.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
And anybody that's listened to our show knows that we've brought this up many times and what our feelings are about what that open water card should mean. So
yeah. So we're at an hour, so I want to end it on a positive note. So, do you guys have any? I have one. Do you have any myths or superstitions that you guys have heard indicate like good luck, good tidings for your dives or your sailing or fishing, anything like that?
Tip your instructor well.
Yes.
Right?
Tip. Don't be a non-tipper.
Don't be a non-tipper.
Tip your boat crew.
Yeah.
That's what they work for. That's what they need. Tip your dive staff well.
Carry the oldest guy on the boat's tanks for him. Right, James?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really good luck, I heard. I don't have any.
I don't know if I've got a good luck one as much, Allie, but I do have a myth that's kind of like a good feeling myth.
Sure.
That there's a myth that you need to go to beautiful, warm, tropical destinations to have a good dive. And that's a myth that people, I think, need to realize that there's so much fun, enjoyable diving that a lot of, particularly us that live up here in the Midwest, Michigan, and, who don't always have the greatest of dives right in their backyard. A lot of like the local inland lakes might not be 100 feet of visibility, warm water, beautiful tropical fish everywhere. But Brando and I have been doing these dives for 30 years and still seem to have a pretty damn good time.
We still love just, 30 feet of water, 25 feet of water, going in the, near the shore, and the beautiful light, and taking photos and just swimming is great. But yeah, agreed, James. That's a great one. That you do not need to go to Cayman or Cozumel or anywhere in the Caribbean to have a great dive. You can have a great dive in your backyard. So
yeah, if you internalize what you do underwater and you make it about improving yourself, every dive doesn't have to be a postcard dive to be good. Like you can do a dive anywhere, and it can improve your diving and improve yourself and improve your mood and your overall happiness, let alone your logbook happiness.
And bring world peace. You forgot that part.
It will. It will unite the alliance.
Yeah, I do get that question a lot. Like, there's a dive shop in Syracuse where you guys go on trips. And I'm like, there's like 3 to 4 dive shops in Syracuse, and we go right here.
Right.
We go right here.
We get the same thing, and we're surrounded by the Great Lakes, but same thing, like diving. Where do you dive around here? I just want to.
You know how many times? I can't tell you how many times I've told people, you're in the Great Lakes state, right? Because the question is, where do you dive around here? Like, you're in the Great Lakes state.
That's cool.
Oh! I never thought of that.
Yeah.
Well, it just goes to show you, people, for years, and for years, it's all people have been exposed to is because all you've had was television, and the only thing television wanted to show you was the big, beautiful, colorful, clear,
Beautiful fish.
You know, and then it's only been the last 10 years where the camera technology, the lighting technology in the last 5 to 10 years has been so incredible that you can take what was a mediocre dive, you know, to photograph 30 years ago, and now you can make it look like, I mean, just scroll through social media today. I mean, you've got and people's like first exposure to shipwrecks today are like some of the most amazing photos you can see. You know, people are exposed to cave diving photos today that 20 years ago you could never get that. You could never get enough light to get that kind of a picture like you can today. So
yeah, especially more and more, I've like been friending a larger variety of divers on Facebook, and their pictures are amazing. And it's like lake dives, the visibility was 15 feet, and you wouldn't know it. And like
camera.
beautiful pictures, beautiful dive sites. Love it.
Oh, you know, Brando, there's, you know, the sultan of the shutter, and if anybody can make magic out of 6 feet of visibility,
I'm the colonel of click. You're gonna have to come up with a new one. The friar of focus.
Yeah, we were just having this discussion. You know, if you're taking a photo of something, you know, 10, 15 feet away, you can be in 20 feet of visibility and make it look absolutely magical.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Lenses, dome ports, sensors, they're great now. Yeah, compared to what we used to, you know, 10 grand would buy you something okay, but now a GoPro is pulling out amazing stuff.
Definitely.
So
I think that was a really good one. Mine is goofy compared to that, but
no, we always love ending on
awesome.
Yeah, goofy is better than this nonsense we just spoke.
Have you ever listened to our show? Goofy and diving.
The one that I found is like dolphins are good luck if they're swimming by your boat, but dolphins aren't.
They're cool.
I was watching an Instagram video of a woman and a dolphin, and she did not think it was good luck. I mean,
well, maybe it was good. I mean, it was good luck for the dolphin.
The dolphin thought he was getting lucky, if you know what I mean. But the woman, I don't think she thought it was good luck.
Well, it's something she'll never forget. So let's just put it that way.
True.
That's all we're looking for. Memories.
Memories. Last a lifetime.
That's so funny. Do you guys or listeners have any other ones that you guys want to bring up right now?
I like this one Nicole put up. The diving is fun and not a real job. So the professionals they don't need to get paid. My wife doesn't believe this is, you know, when I go out to, like, we'll go down to the quarry to teach class, I'll be leaving and she'll say, have fun. And I'm like, what is that? I don't know. Can you swear on this? Like, if I said have fun when you're going to work, you would be like, I'm going to work. But you say, have fun. So I got to correct her.
That's so funny. Sometimes I have fun at work. I do.
Well, you can have fun, but like to say to somebody, just have fun. Like your work is not really work. It's although I'm a little oversensitive, maybe. I don't know.
That's okay. My dive buddy makes fun of me for this, what Nicole said. He's like, this is my favorite dive buddy in the world, and I never go diving with her because she won't dive for fun because she's always working. And I'm like, sorry.
It's tough. It's a very tough battle that a dive professional has. You know, to be a good dive professional, you need to have a lot of real experience teaching, because you're dealing with so many different people from so many different walks of life. But you also have to have a lot of real experience diving, not teaching, so that you have something real to draw from. You know, to give the most to your students. You know, so it's an extremely demanding, profession if you're going to go the professional route. You know, and it's so easy for the big box guys out there just to say that,
100 dives become an
100
instructor.
dives, a couple of dive trips, and we'll make an instructor. And then you wonder why they want to pay everybody peanuts. Because the majority of people out there are, it's so easy to get there. They just don't have the experience to do it long term and do it well. So it's tough. It's a tough battle. It's a tough game we play.
It's a balance, and I mean, when I taught at other agencies, they required that I have a requisite amount of dives outside of teaching.
Really?
That was with the GUE. Dive to your highest level that you're teaching.
Okay.
Yeah. For us too, it's a requirement. You have to dive to your level, and you can't teach. You got to, at the level of diving that you're doing. You got to be
without doing it.
Above the level you're teaching at. So.
Yeah, and that kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have this. Oh, but what's your real job? I used to get this.
Right.
So I worked for a very short time at a coffee shop nearby the dive shop, and if I had like my dive shirts on, and people asked what I would do, I'd tell them, "Oh, like I manage a dive shop," and they were like, "Oh, like I'm so sorry." And then if I started to reword it, I was like, "Oh, I teach classes at SUNY SF. I help teach the scuba classes there." And they're like, "Oh, that's so cool. You teach at a college?" And I'm like, "Yes, I do. Yeah, scuba." But they don't listen to that part. So
right.
It was, I work in a dive shop. They're like, "Oh, poor baby." And then it was so that's something that I've gotten a lot.
Well, you just tell them, you say, when you turn on Discovery Channel and you see like all those amazing underwater sights of like the sharks and the octopus, and you watch that documentary about the guy with the octopus, and you watch these amazing shows of these beautiful coral reefs that are the blue planet, and you're just mesmerized for hours. That's what I do.
That's true. That's a good point.
That's what I do.
I like that. But yeah, that's what I've got. You guys have any other ones?
No, this was fun. This was a chat.
Thank you so much for joining. Thank you. You guys
Thank you.
Of course. You guys did a wonderful job of ending it on such a wholesome note.
That's what we do. We are professionals, we are gentlemen, and we're dive instructors.
Amazing. And we have to sign dive logs now, James.
Oh yeah. Did you sign?
That's how you really end it.
You haven't signed dive logs with us yet, Allie. So we always, at the end of our show, we sign log books.
Oh.
Because at the dive shop, do you get people coming in asking to sign your dive log?
I don't actually. I think we need to push dive logs more, like for our newer students. I think
that's a myth that we should tackle another
time.
We can have a part 2.
So Allie, I'm gonna start. I'm gonna sign your logbook.
Okay.
Dear Allie.
Oh.
You're gonna need more than a spare air for this dive, but I'm glad you brought the bananas. Safe dive.
Beautiful.
Nice one, James.
I love it. We have one more question. How can we find the Great Dive Podcast also?
Oh, you can go to our website, which is thegreatdivepodcast.com.
Mm-hmm.
Email us at info@thegreatdivepodcast.com. We're on iTunes, and SoundCloud is where we release the show. If you're on SoundCloud or Stitcher or Spotify, I mean, it's
every major
one. A bunch of the podcast sources. But if you're really needing a fix and jonesing and can't find it anywhere, you can always just go online to thegreatdivepodcast.com and just click on podcasts, and it'll link you right to the direct SoundCloud source right there. But thanks, Jason, for asking that.
That was a good question.
Yeah.
So now I know what to do tomorrow.
There you go.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you guys so much.
Most people that can't just like listen to one, they got to binge like a whole year. Am I right, James?
Yeah. That's which is good. and having a splash of the old chicken cock, or what were you or ocean?
Jeffersons Ocean.
Jeffersons, baby. I think I'm gonna have one more splash.
Scapa. Is that what you had? Is that a scotch from Scapa Flow? Scapa Scotch? Is that what that is? Just say it. Yeah,
from Scotland.
Just say it like you mean it.
Potentially Scapa Flow, but we have a trip to Scapa Flow in 2023, which is cool and exciting.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So we can get lots of whiskey on that trip.
There's a reason. Fringe benefit. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Cool. Thank you guys so much.
Okay.
I'm going to throw you guys in the waiting room, and I'll be in to chat in just a second, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Allie.
Good
night, everybody.
All day and
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. This was a really great topic with some really great people. Thank you for all the comments. It was fabulous. We are going to have another show in 1 month, so stay tuned for our next topic. Thank you so much. Have a great night. Get some diving in.